All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me. I am here with Justin Haefner of Riding Farm LLC, and that's right here in West Virginia. Is that right?
We are on the other side of West Virginia.
Okay.
But
so
yeah.
so that would be where?
We're in Charlestown.
Okay. All
which
right.
gets confused a lot between Charleston and Charlestown.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. And we are both here at the ATFO, so the Appalachian Trainer Face Off, and we both have the pleasure of being judges here this year, which has been a lot of fun. And we're here working with Heart of Phoenix Equine Rescue. And it's pretty cool because basically it's where these horses have been fostered with professional trainers or some amateur, but essentially they're working with these horses in order to build their confidence, right? To get them where they are learning new skill sets where they will be as adaptable as possible and be as safe as possible for whatever their future families are and where they'll go. So it's been a ton of fun working with you this weekend and judging, and we've gotten to know each other a little bit. But Justin, tell me a little bit about how you got started into horses. Like, what did that look like for you, and what's your origin story?
Right. Yeah, so I was just born into horses. My dad's not a professional trainer, but he's ridden his whole life. So I just grew up with horses on the property. So I was super fortunate to just, be on a 30-acre farm in Virginia and just have ponies out the back door. So I really fell in love with everything horses because of my upbringing that way. But I ended up just it was one of those things that it was like I rode, I enjoyed it, and then that bug just grew. So I started riding anything that I could find. I spent time riding with some folks where we rode everything. We fox hunted, we did some local hunter jumper shows, we played polo, we worked cattle, we just, on horses that weren't hardly broke, we just did whatever we could find.
Sure.
And then I ended up diving deep into the Pirelli program at the time. When I was 13, 14, spent 3 years with one of their instructors. And from there really branched out, took a hard turn toward the dressage world. So got heavily invested in studying classical dressage. And then I ended up studying at an equine osteopathy school in Texas.
Wow. Okay.
So
where in Texas?
It was a little town of Columbus.
Oh, wow, yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah,
I know exactly.
I mean, it's like a drop, right?
Yeah, right
drop
off the 10, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So
right outside Hyattsville, and
yeah, that's funny. So yeah, I studied there for 3 years.
And what's that school?
The Flugen Institute.
I didn't even know it existed. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Very
I don't practice.
Okay.
I'm not certified. I got very curious to understand the inner workings of the horse's physiology. I wanted to know how they moved, how they worked, and then I apply that to my training. So I got incredibly interested in that. But I mean, huge turn from the natural horsemanship world, right?
Yeah.
And then it kind of all came together after that time. And I started trying to have some wonderful mentors and teachers that kind of just pull pieces of that stuff together. And now, so the way I look at things is just through, I mean, it's a broad lens at this point.
It's really cool. You have such a diverse background from, I'm hearing like eventing, dressage, Pirelli. Really, really, really cool. So that is so cool because you have a pretty unique, you would have a pretty unique outlook on a lot of things, just coming from such a diverse background. How does that inform the work that you do with horses today?
The way I think about it is, and I've been kind of faced with this choice over time, is do I dive deeply into one thing and become don't like the word, but a master of one thing, right?
Sure.
Or do I stay broad and know a little bit about a lot? So do I know a lot about a little or a little about a lot? Right. And I've decided that instead of being knowing so much about one thing that I could be, renowned as a master at one point. I would rather be able to talk a lot of different languages. And the way that my dad and I think about that is, can we be a builder of bridges?
Very cool.
So that's how I think. I think that's how that informs things now.
Okay.
Because I can talk to your Pirelli instructor, somebody off that's teaching the Pirelli program, and I can have a conversation between them and somebody who's like at the highest level in our competitive modern dressage, and I can talk both languages.
Sure.
Or I can be able to communicate with the body worker and a vet and a trainer, and I can explain, and you know what I mean?
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
the way I think is like, can I build bridges between people? And that's how I'd like to affect the industry.
That's awesome.
Because I think we end up in camps and divided.
100%, yeah. Little pockets of places, and it sounds like you've been able to navigate through those different pockets, and you're able to bring things with fresh eyes to help give some where people can reach. I guess where you're bridging that, like you're saying. Tell me a little bit more about Riding Far and what you guys do there.
Yeah. We do a lot.
As all horse people do, right?
Working on how to communicate this in a succinct way. But I work with my dad, Paul.
Okay.
And he's a psychologist, a clinical psychotherapist, and he's been practicing for 30 some years. No, about 30 years.
Okay.
And so he works with riders.
Gotcha.
To help them up here.
Okay.
He's done clinical.
Almost like a performance coach.
He's certified with the sport psychology, so he does performance, but he's been a clinical therapist working with relationships, trauma, anxiety, depression.
Wow, fascinating. Yeah.
So we take, in terms of the psych services, we take things far beyond how can you take your score a point higher.
Sure.
We work with some very high performing competitors, mostly in the eventing industry.
Okay.
But most of our clientele are people who are trying to maybe just kind of had an accident and are trying to get their confidence back.
Absolutely.
Or had a baby and now things look a lot different when they're with their horse, or something like that. And the way, we've realized that there's a lot of wonderful people helping people with those struggles in the horse industry, but not many that have the kind of education that someone like my father does in terms of the psychology. So what we do at home is, as I work with the horses, because like I say, there's no, this is better than I do. There's no good helping somebody work through their fear if their horse is worth being afraid of. So
fair point.
Yeah. So I help get the horses safe, and then my dad helps the riders from a psychological perspective.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So it's like this holistic approach of horse and rider.
Yeah.
Helping to develop that harmony. But there has to be work done with the horse. There has to be work done with the rider. And it sounds like you guys do a good job of like coaching people and working with them.
That's the goal, for sure.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I love that. So when you work with a horse to get it prepared for a rider, a client, like what are some of the things that you look for, and kind of what does that process look like, and how is that different from just traditional, sending your horse off to the trainer for 30, 90 days, whatever?
I'll start vague and then I'll try to get concrete.
Sure, sounds good.
So, on the big picture, I look for a horse that can be emotionally regulated. So, we can talk about what that means, like in terms of what they know and what they're taught. But for me, I think what makes a horse the safest for somebody is when You can introduce a little turbulence into, let's say you have a nice peaceful pond.
Okay.
And you can run a speedboat straight through it.
Sure.
The faster that pond gets settled, the better. So a horse that can bring back that energy themselves, where we're not having to kind of manage that.
So that is really interesting because I love that, because right now there is such a big emphasis on desensitizing horses.
Yes.
Which is important, but the emphasis is on preventing the horse from ever reacting. And for a lot of people, the goal is, if my horse doesn't react, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But you're saying, there might be some turbulence. Mm-hmm. How does that horse deal with that turbulence?
Yeah, and that's a great point, because you hear a lot of desensitize this and that, and I expose them ahead of time. That's great, but it's unless you're gonna be riding in the same environment every single day, you are guaranteed turbulence. Right. So that's, I think that's a great point, because I treat things like we know that stuff's gonna come undone. We know we're going to hit a point that we just we can't expose them to everything.
Sure.
Right? These folks here at this competition, they have exposed, many of these riders have done a fantastic job exposing their horse really to isn't it amazing?
They really have. The horses are really quiet, really, really quiet.
But there's, unless you're really, really deep in this foundation and understand how people think, I wouldn't have expected to see a massive spider jump with legs coming out, right?
It's some of those trail obstacles where I'm impressed by how well they've handled it,
So I think it's the kind of thing you can expose them to as much as possible, but they're guaranteed to get worked up. It's we can do all the mental work and all the imagery and meditations and everything, we're still going to get worked up.
Absolutely.
Something's going to happen in our lives that we just can't handle. So what's important? How fast do you come back? I watched Nick Dowers at the Road to the Horse one year, and it was the only year I went out to the competition. And there was just this one thing that I took away that I loved. He had a rank horse that he had to start there. Really, it was tough. There was a bronc, but he was just cool as a cucumber. You could see him 2-3 seconds before that thing broke into, and he'd just grab his rope and wait. And all he talked about was recovery time. He didn't worry whatsoever about the fact that a horse was bucking.
Sure.
All he made a clear point that what he's watching for is how fast did it come back afterwards. Or how, and I love that. So for me, emotional regulation to me is a horse's ability to allow their emotions to come up and then bring them back down. And what happens is that's something that they can manage themselves, which is what's cool. That's why I'm fascinated with that.
Sure.
Because we can give them tools, and we can work with bringing their attention back to us and helping them be focused and be obedient and then be able to manage their feet. But what happens is a horse that can have some sense of emotional regulation, that you'll see that happen out in the field. Something will happen and a horse that would have just been running circles and circles, you'll start to see, something happened, they prop up and then they come back down. Sure. And I think what's scary for a lot of people is a horse that, they stand up and look at something, what's going to happen next?
Right.
Yeah. Right? So what's cool is when what happens next is that they just settle back down and come back to us. So that overall, to me, that's what makes a safe horse. Now, how do we get there is a whole different, that's a different conversation. And I touched on a couple of those pieces, as I want to be able to really engage the horse's attention.
Okay.
So if they are, the way I see that is, we do need to sometimes teach them if they get distracted and pulled by something, their attention gets pulled by something, that we need to teach them how to return to us.
Gotcha. So it's important that you're connecting with them, that that it's a dialogue, and that you're getting a response where they're drawing back into you.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Being able to connect with the feet, not just in my mind, we're not just keeping them busy. if they're worked up. For me, that's being able to, ask them to stand in one place. A lot of folks have this exercise of like, a box in the sand.
Okay.
They can get settled in one place. If I can ask them to take one step forward or one step back, that to me is connecting with the feet in a way that they can be very grounded.
Gotcha.
Very settled. So, regulating attention, then that's like you're saying, connecting with the horse, helping connect with the feet, and then just being responsive to my aids. And by that I mean, what do my hands on the rein or on the lead rope mean? What does the lead rope mean? What does the flag or stick or whatever I'm using mean? Under saddle, what do my reins mean? What does my leg mean? What does my seat mean? On the ground, what does my personal space mean?
Sure.
And that's just all kind of, we could think about it as a response to pressure, but really those are the tools that we use to communicate.
Gotcha, sure.
So those are the tools that we use to get to the attention.
Makes sense, yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
how I think about those things.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like you take a very thorough approach of working with a horse. And it sounds like also you work with the clients to help them handle the horse.
Yes.
You're a very, very gifted teacher in the way that you explain things and break things down. Tell me a little bit about what that looks like. You work with the horse, but now you're working with the client. What does that look like?
It'll depend on, this is why we're so bad for an interview setting like this. My dad's the worst. You ask him a question and half the time it depends. But
that's horses,
that's
right?
horses.
It always depends,
And even more people.
Sure.
But depending on let's say I have a horse now, wonderful horse, wonderful client. But she bought this horse, didn't really know what she was getting into. She ended up coming off and broke some very mild, but broke her back in some places. It was a bit of a recovery.
Yeah, okay.
So I took the horse in, spent a few months riding it myself, and she'd come out and watch. I love that. I love being involved with the clients that way, where they can watch and see the process. But I got where I felt like he was responsive, regulated.
Okay. Yeah.
He was the kind of horse, if you gave him a little bit too much reins, like I kind of restarted him. So I wanted to be able to ride him in a rope halter, where I just kind of took him for a ride in the indoor, where as long as he was moving forward,
sure, yeah.
We were good. We were moving forward.
Okay.
So stuff like that. By the time he felt like if he needed to move, and I'd allow that, and he'd just take a couple steps and come right back. That's what I was looking for. And then we really broke that down. So first she just learned to work with him on the ground. She learned to move the hindquarters. She learned to move the forequarters. She learned to circle him, walk, trot, canter, make sure they were on the same page, make sure, some of that stuff is like this person in particular came in with a lot of energy. This horse is very sensitive. Well, that's the kind of stuff you pick up on fast.
Sure.
In your groundwork.
Sure.
And then, we got things working on the ground. She got a good feel for saddling him, for bridling him. And then she participated in one of our clinics that's specifically for fear and anxiety.
Okay.
And she worked with my father and doing a sequence that he works with a lot of people on in that situation, where he broke down the mounting process. Because what happens a lot of times when these folks are coming back from an accident is they just want to get on the horse.
Yeah.
So he really broke things down to help her feel her emotional responses.
Gotcha.
Regulate her own emotional responses. And so that by the time she's sitting in the saddle, she felt okay.
I love that. So powerful.
And then from there, this is the best story, because she is riding this horse everywhere. But I tried to build this up little by little. So she rode her on a line. I kept a hold of the line in the round pen at the walk.
Love that.
Next day in the
And
round.
for people at home, I think that's just so important, right? Because like you said, people feel like, and that's the old way, like, oh, get back on that horse, and you got a broken shoulder.
Yeah, right.
But I love like the baby steps of helping to build her confidence, right? Starting, there's nothing wrong with starting on a line, right?
No,
there's that
nothing wrong.
Security and comfort. I love it.
Yeah. It's all about breaking it down into small steps. I think you'd agree with that.
Yeah.
It's, and no matter what it is, right?
Yep.
If it's helping a horse start out fresh or get over something wicked, or if same for the riders, it's like if you could take these small steps and have it be one small step in a day.
Sure.
And that they really feel good about that. Well, the next day, man, they're ready to go.
Right.
Right. And it builds so fast. It's when we try to take, that one step felt really good. We might be able to get to 4 or 5 today. And then you blow them up at 5, and now you have to go back to -5.
Right. Build that trust back up.
Right. So I think breaking it down into small steps and working within a window of, we would think of this as emotional activation.
Okay.
So we think about a scale of 1 to 10. So for a rider, if they're feeling afraid, if they're feeling anxious, we give that a number, and there's a window in there that is appropriate to move forward, or below, I guess, a certain window. So let's say they start to get concerned at a 4.
Okay.
But they can manage pretty well until an 8, but after an 8, they're out of the water.
Sure.
So it's really important that we would call that window the window of tolerance.
Got it.
We would call that first threshold a threat detection threshold.
Sure.
And the second threshold we would call, don't remember what we call that.
Okay.
That's your panic response.
Got it. Okay.
Within those two, within the first moment you recognize a threat,
Yep.
and panic, there's a possibility for growth. Above panic, nothing.
This is so fascinating, yeah. Because this all applies to horses as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? Getting them in that pocket where, and it's interesting because I feel like, again, kind of an old school approach, because a lot of horsemanship is based in showmanship. It's like, put out your best foot. Like, you're doing great work if your horse does perfect, but you're not teaching them anything, right? There has to be that threshold where there's a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of anxiety, things that they're, and like you're saying, like, that's the opportunity for growth.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
Well, and
that's powerful.
And the reason I get so particular about this is because you've heard you got to get out of your comfort zone.
Sure.
Right? Well, yes, absolutely. But like, if your comfort zone's a circle, you got to get out of that comfort zone, but there's going to be a parallel circle.
Sure.
So you have to get out of your comfort zone in a window. Too far out of your comfort zone.
Right, yeah.
And there's no growth. So you're not going to grow within your comfort zone, but you're not going to grow too far beyond it. And that's, I've heard, I never met Mr. Ray Hunt, but I've heard people talk about how he would approach things as he would ride the edge of trouble.
Yeah, sure.
You're not in trouble.
Sure.
Someone I ride with is Tom Curtin out in Oklahoma, and he talks about, having a horse be concerned is okay, but not bothered. So, and this is all words.
Yeah.
But to me, it's all the same idea. Concerned, you're in the window. Bothered, you're beyond it.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's how. So for horses, absolutely. If they're just, relaxed as all get out and got a leg cocked, and you're trying to get them to go and, run the barrels or jump the Grand Prix. Right. You're not really going to be moving forward. But if you've got a horse that's just beside themselves and so uncomfortable that they just can't focus and can't listen, and no matter what you do, you're not set up for success. Right? They're somewhere in the middle. So
that's interesting. And in that middle, I feel like for people at home who are wondering, like, how do you know when you're in that middle? it's just a subtle elevation, right? Maybe the head picks up, right? Like that's a good place to begin to start to soften that horse. Or they get a little bit of stiffness. Don't wait until they're so stiff that they're running sideways and away from you. Well, this has been a lot of fun, really, really cool. We're gonna have to dive in deeper at another time, and we got to stay connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm fascinated by what you guys do, and it sounds like you guys are really making huge impacts on lives.
That's our goal for sure.
And that is so powerful because you're helping people, and as you help people too, you're helping the horses because those horses are all going to be better for it. Before we do close though, tell me about your experience with the ATFO, how you've enjoyed the weekend and what that's been like.
Well, you know, your viewers might not know, but like I came in as last minute as possible. And I had no clue what to expect. And man, I'm having a blast.
That's awesome.
It's just, it's cool to see all these riders doing so well and having come so far. And really, you know, some of the horsemanship in there is just wonderful. But also just seeing this big picture of the mission and being able to be a part of, like, you know, I've loved that through this whole weekend you've made it really clear, like, hey guys, we're here to help adopt horses.
Yeah.
You know, that, and so, yeah, I'm having a blast.
That's awesome.
And it's been great to get to know you and Carl and Brenda Better and Michael and Lee, and it's just been like a lot of fun, honestly.
It really has. It's been like camp, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to come out and be a part, but I didn't expect to have so much fun. So, yeah. But I really appreciate you having me on here. It's a lot of fun to talk with you. I do a terrible job of explaining this stuff compared to my dad. So if you ever get a chance to pick his brain, I mean,
I'd love to.
It'll be a lot longer than how long we've sat here. It'd be more like 3-4 hours if you can rein him in.
That sounds awesome. Sounds cool.